Today on the Garner Brothers, the Venezuelan diet. I'm thirsty. So by Venezuelan diet, I'm referring obviously to the famine. Unfortunately, those poor souls down there are being forced into a famine, and we'll all soon be following suit. This video, we're going to give you guys a little relief from us talking and jabbering on and reading quotes. Okay, so this famine video, we're going to go through this short video presentation and then some helpful tips and tricks.
Some church members opine that emergency plans and supplies, food storage, and 72-hour kits must not be important anymore because the brethren have not spoken recently and extensively about these and related topics in General Conference. But repeated admonitions to prepare have been proclaimed by leaders of the church for decades. The consistency of prophetic counsel over time creates a powerful concert of clarity and a warning volume far louder than solo performances can ever produce. We learn, for example, in the parable of the 10 virgins, that procrastinating preparation leads to unsuccessful proving.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
So last year in a religious freedom speech at BYU, Elder David A. Bednar was counseling on religious freedom, and he began his talk with "A mighty famine arose in that land, and he began to be in want." It was an unusual way to begin a talk on religious freedom. And later, he says this is a wake-up call, and he reiterated again, "A mighty famine arising in the land."
Rodents of unusual size? I don't think they exist.
Tonight, amid an outbreak of more than 70 large wildfires in the West, there are fears that the largest one in Oregon could merge with another fire.
The unprecedented heat wave in the West, along with strong winds and what's known as dry lightning, has accelerated the California wildfire season, putting 2021 far ahead of last year.
With the wildfire emergency in the West, dozens of them raging largely uncontained across the region.
Dozens of people in the Vancouver area of Western Canada have died in an unprecedented heat wave. Police say they've responded to almost 70 sudden deaths since Monday.
Another week of terrible wildfires in the nation's west, with the worst of those fires in southeast Oregon, covering an area about the size of New York City. One more consequence of the worst drought in 1,000 years.
It's definitely concerning. There is a record heat wave taking place in the Pacific Northwest, and the temperatures are absolutely brutal.
It sparks memories of 2020, the worst year ever for California wildfires. This year, twice as many acres have already burned.
In the Pacific Northwest, dealing with some of the most intense heat it's felt on record.
Record-breaking heat and a lack of rainfall are threatening to paralyze the country's western half.
Tens of millions of Americans are dealing with dangerously high temperatures.
Record drought and sweltering heat are baking the western U.S.,
where a historic drought is threatening a catastrophic fire season.
Boston is under a heat emergency.
Extreme heat is baking both coasts right now and turning deadly, with more record-breaking temperatures on the way.
Millions of people are dealing with scorching temperatures as a deadly heat wave continues to grip parts of North America.
That breaks their all-time record by 9 degrees. That is unheard of. And in Canada, it got to 121. 121 in Canada, the nation. That breaks their all-time national record by 5 degrees. And it's all due to this heat dome.
The largest fire in the country right now is in southern Oregon. It's known as the Bootleg Fire. It's already burned more than 150,000 acres. That's an area twice the size of Portland.
What?
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jason Grenauer. In this special presentation, we're digging into that drought crisis across the West and its far-reaching impact from our water infrastructure to our forests and our farmlands.
Latest in the drought emergency, the North Bay is getting ready for water cuts.
Nearly one half of the country, from the Pacific coast to the Great Plains and the upper Midwest, is experiencing moderate to exceptional drought conditions.
A major agricultural disaster on our hands. Some farmers have already decided not to plant crops at all this year.
Signs of the drought in the western United States are everywhere, from the dry riverbeds to the depleted reservoirs, canals, and fallow fields. And western farmers are hurting.
This is a fallow field where there's not enough water to plant. No water, so that's the rice dying.
Right now, the U.S. is in year 2 of a drought that encompasses almost the entirety of the American West.
Extreme drought conditions cover more land than any point in the last 20 years, which means the 2021 wildfire season could be the worst yet.
What we are dealing with now is truly alarming. Scientists tell us that a multi-year mega drought has developed in the southwestern portion of the country, and this is the worst year of that mega drought so far by a wide margin.
According to July data released by the U.S. Drought Monitor, less than 1% of the land in western states was drought-free, and more than 60% was experiencing extreme or exceptional drought. It's the worst drought situation ever on record. More than 60 million people west of the Rocky Mountains are experiencing drought conditions, and that's putting a strain on our water supply and increasing wildfire activity across the region. By mid-July, there were more than 130 fires burning across the West, including more than 50 uncontained large fires. More than 1.1 million acres have already burned in the western half of the United States this year. And after record fires across the West last year, officials predict those fires will increasingly burn year-round as a decades-long mega drought worsens.
Across the American West, there simply isn't enough water to go around, and the full heat of summer is just getting started. From the Rio Grande to the Rocky Mountains, a mega drought is underway. It's shaping up to be the worst water crisis in generations. The darker the red, the worse it is. Reservoirs that store water for millions are below normal and are projected to hit historic lows soon.
While there have been droughts that were longer than this one in the past, you've got to go back hundreds of years to find one. This drought, which is now 22 years old, is just as severe as the driest 22-year periods in any of those historic mega droughts.
And this one's not over as far as we can tell.
No, this drought is far from over. 2021 is shaping up to potentially be the driest of all of the drought years in the last century, and definitely one of the driest of the last millennium.
There's nothing. It's just dirt and some, dry weeds, basically. If there's not water for it, you can't grow it.
And many of the West's largest reservoirs have sunk below half of their capacities. The effects are most acutely felt by farms in nearby communities, where over 90% of the water goes in many western states.
The basin in the Colorado River spans 7 states and 2 countries. 40 million people count on its water. But what happens when rivers dry up and the water you're counting on doesn't come?
That's already happening up the road in Healdsburg, where all outdoor sprinklers and drip irrigation have been banned. The town relies solely on water from Lake Mendocino, which is so low the governor used it as a backdrop for his drought press conference. So effective immediately, residents are being rationed to 74 gallons per person.
A desperate situation in Sonoma County. Lake Mendocino, a major water source, continues to dry up. Residents in Healdsburg being told to shut down all outdoor watering system.
The warning from the state to thousands of farmers that their water could be shut off is more than just a cautionary notice for the agricultural community.
Well, essentially, if you don't have a well, you're really facing some hard times.
Farmers say this could lead to catastrophe.
So not to scare you with all of that fun stuff that's happening or going to be happening, but we've got a few clips that we've each made on how to help you prepare for the famine.
what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch.